So, The Bad Batch Season 1 has ended, and I finally feel free to give you my thoughts on the season as a whole. And I'm sure all the Star Wars fans, even those that disagree with my feelings, will approach the comment section of this video well-reasoned and with much respect.
A few moments later.
Get your torches! Pitchforks! You can't be an angry mob without pitchforks!
Here we go again, Star Wars. What's up, everybody? It's Josh. Welcome back to the channel. And in all seriousness, if you like this content and want to save me from getting ratioed because the Star Wars fans seem to be really out here for this Bad Batch thing that's coming from my neck, click the like button. It only takes a second. So I'm going to cut right to the good part. Honestly, wasn't really feeling Bad Batch. Some of you just got triggered as though I said one of your children was uglier than a monkey's butt. And if you are one of those people, feel free to hit the dislike button and get the f out of here! But in all seriousness, when it comes to the Bad Batch, I'm feeling a bit conflicted. There were a lot of really nice things in this season. There were a lot of things I loved about the show, but there was a lot left to be desired, in my opinion. Now, let's talk about some of the aspects of the Bad Batch that I absolutely love, because no, I don't think the show is total trash. There's a lot of good stuff in the Bad Batch Season 1, and I think the show as a whole did push certain elements of Star Wars animation forward. First, let's start with the lore, and oh man, was there a lot of cool Star Wars lore to latch onto here. And throughout the show, there were many examples of things progressing from their end Republic times into their early Empire iteration. This includes all the stuff that we saw on Kamino, the plans for cloning enacted by the Empire. We see the early versions of the Stormtroopers with the TK troopers. We see taxes and different things levied on different planets right away. We see how different resistant groups are planning and pulling people together, and the early resistance to the Imperial reign. Honestly, that part of the show is really strong for me. It's something you always want with your Star Wars, and it tends to be something that Dave Filoni absolutely nails in most of his Star Wars projects. This is the same as all those other projects. In my opinion, he absolutely nailed this aspect. Next up, the animation itself was incredible. This might be the best looking Star Wars animation to date. This seems to be a 2.0 on the original Clone Wars animation style, and even better looking than the most recent Clone Wars Season 7, which to me was a massive step forward with what they could do with that animation style with different lights and particles. Even in this final episode, some of the textures, lighting, and the effects put on the water were just mind-blowing. Literally some of the best effects I've seen in any kind of animation ever. And when Star Wars hits those really scenic moments where the music rises and the scenery is just mind-blowing, I just really feel like this show nailed it with those kind of moments. A lot to love with regards to the actual animation style, and the action was pretty awesome as well. And speaking of the music swelling, the music's one of the strongest parts of the Bad Batch. It's an evolution of the music that we've been seeing over the past couple of years with Star Wars, leaving behind the old John Williams style while still hearkening back to a lot of those notes. And we've seen Ludwig Göransson introduce a lot of fun, new, interesting things in the soundtrack for The Mandalorian Season 1 and 2, but the Kiner brothers put their own unique stamp on the Bad Batch with really cool tonal and almost cyberpunk-like tone kind of music beats in certain aspects of the show. They nail the music for almost every particular type of scene throughout the show. I was continuously blown away, and it's one of the strongest elements of the Bad Batch. And I hope the Kiner brothers continue to make dope Star Wars music for animated stuff, but also live action. Like, they're literally that good. Give these guys a gig with live action Star Wars. And another really strong aspect of the Bad Batch is the core characters. Now, we obviously spend a lot of time with Omega, but even Omega, I feel, is developed really nicely, and the end parts of the season when we realize why she's so attached to the Bad Batch, and it is because they were grown up in front of her. Like, literally, they were brought to her. She was completely alone until the Bad Batch joined her in that laboratory, and then she watched them grow up. In some ways, these are her little brothers brothers. And that part was really cool. But honestly, it's the Crosshair character that is the strongest in the show. They have tried in many different mediums to get an empathetic Empire type of character that's really good, that we can empathize with, but also know is wrong. Most of the people in the Empire end up being just mustache twirling villains or really, really far gone evil. And the ones that join or leave the Empire to join the rebellion, we can kind of see that coming a mile away. Crosshairs might be the first character ever that's truly nuanced with regards to his love of order, his support of the Empire, and his basic disregard for all of the other people in the galaxy. He really and truly has a pretty weird nature, but that nature means that he aligns with the values of the Empire despite still having a lot of love for his brothers in the 99. And the juxtaposition of Crosshair and Hunter was really good throughout the show, but it's really handled well in the last 2 episodes. It's the strongest element of the 2-part finale, in my opinion. And so at this point, you might be wondering, like, hey, Josh, that's a lot of things you liked in the show. Are you sure you didn't love this season here? Yeah, I'm sure. I know myself. I think my biggest gripe with the Bad Batch, and the reason I ultimately didn't like it the way I wish I did, is the pacing. And it's actually micro and macro pacing. I feel that individual episodes have pacing issues, but the season as a whole is a real goobly glob mess of pacing. The season starts out so strong with an opening episode over 70 minutes that establishes a number of different things. And from there, we see the Bad Batch on the run getting to know Omega, but there's way too much side questy nonsense going on in the show. They have the classic ship breakdowns episode. They have to start doing jobs for a mob boss in order to pay off the debt to be able to continue to hide and have a ship and, you know, continue to exist. And I felt like there were way too many Sid episodes and just weird off the beaten path episodes. And honestly, even the really dope episodes with Cad Bane and some of the stuff with Fennec Shand, they feel sort of misplaced in the season. And ultimately, my biggest complaint is the last 2 episodes. I mean, the Bad Batch was really starting to pick up pace and, in my opinion, find its stride, and the 2-part finale for me just falls completely flat. The first part of it is pretty strong, but the second part of it was incredibly lackluster in my opinion. Ultimately, it's a fun episode, and it's kind of interesting to see them getting out of Kamino, and I think there's this thing of like, who's going to die, if anybody, and that lingering over the finale was interesting and did add tension. But for me personally, spending an entire episode escaping the sinking Kamino buildings was just not a good way to end this episode. You literally could have just had them pop up in pods or something after, you know, Kamino was wrecked, get on a ship, and then do any number of more interesting and more action-packed stuff. Now, I can already hear the people in the comment section saying, but Josh, the whole point of the last episode is to put Crosshair in a position where he's forced to work with them, show that he still cares about them, but ultimately still choose the side of the Empire, and then everybody goes their separate ways. And I will just tell you, I think there are a million different ways they could have accomplished that goal, and if they had accomplished it while a lot of blaster bolts are flying throughout the air and potentially even a few lightsabers cutting people down, it would have been way freaking cooler, and you can't tell me I'm wrong. And this is where it gets weird, because currently there seems to be a huge kerfuffle when it comes to the Bad Batch, with a lot of Star Wars fans vehemently defending it, saying it's really awesome, and saying that anybody that has a problem with it is crazy. And there's a whole bunch of other Star Wars fans that are trying to crap all over the Bad Batch and say that it is absolutely horrible and a sign that Dave Filoni is not as good as people think he is. And frankly, I think both of those groups of people are being toxic in their own way. Honestly, I don't see, even if you like Bad Batch, how you can say this was an incredible season. And a lot of people that think this show was great or that want to defend it keep bringing up to me Rebels Season 1 and Clone Wars Season 1. And although I like both of those shows, just because I like those shows does not mean I want every Star Wars animated show for the rest of time to fall prey to that sin. The sin of having a very lackluster start. But no, I want Star Wars shows, even the animated ones, to be getting better and to rise to the occasion of the modern sensibilities of entertainment out there. I made this point in the live stream earlier, but Invincible Season 1 is legitimately 100 times better than The Bad Batch Season 1, and that is a damn shame. As a Star Wars fan, there's a lot of stuff Bad Batch did right. It gave me cool lore, gave me cool character moments, and left me wanting more and wondering what will happen next. However, it didn't blow my hair back. It didn't give me any episodes that I thought were so cool that I had to go make my non-Star Wars friends watch them. I mean, we stopped doing watch parties like 3 or 4 episodes in because I felt like that was just going to end up being the pattern for the show, and I was proven to be, well, historically correct. It's just a weirdly paced show with no real juice, no real oomph. And I know it's crazy to say, but I think it should be allowed for Star Wars fans to come out and say these feelings about the Bad Batch and say, hey, there's a lot going on here that's good, but overall it didn't do it for me, and I want my Star Wars content to be better. And even if you love the show, can't you acknowledge that it could be better? Don't you want the show to be better? And don't you think if it would have had more action, been paced a little bit better, and had more of a fire finale, that there would frankly be less people out there making videos like this one? There would be less people crapping on Bad Batch if it just did a little bit more. It's not a damnation of the show. I think the show is fine. But as a Star Wars fan, I want more than fine. Is that entitlement? Absolutely. Is it the reality of how I feel as a fan? Absolutely. So there you have it, guys. The things I loved about it, the things I didn't like about it. I'm sure you've got some thoughts, and I'm sure you're already freaking out, disliking the video, and commenting in the comment section. So let me have it. Give me your thoughts. And as I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day. And I'll see you in the next video.